All right. We are live from the GM Cardano studio on Bitcoin Pizza Day. And I am here with
Mike,
Mike, Captain.
Captain Crypto, where I
Captain
help you
Crypto.
navigate the treacherous crypto waters to
That's
keep
right.
your portfolio afloat.
We are, Mike, you've been running some Cardano meetups in the Fort Myers area for a long
Yeah,
time.
we started back in 2000 and ran a meetings really strong for a long time. We had every other week for over a couple of years. And now we're kind of died off when the bear market came, and now we're starting back up again. So if you're in the community or local Southwest Florida area, look for us online, and we'd love to see you out here in some of these meetups.
That's right. So yeah, we're back at it. Bitcoin Pizza Day, great day to really just get focused on coming back to. That's right, and again, of course, D Hop,
This
right?
pizza looks great, man.
It
It's
does.
amazing.
D Hop from the Fort Myers area for a great pizza. So great Fort Myers area and great pizza and a great day to be together and start really talking crypto, start talking Cardano again. Meet up for our community and what's going on. So let's start with what's actually happening with Bitcoin right now.
It's an amazing today. Not only is today Bitcoin Pizza Day, which is May 22nd, 2010 is when the first transaction on Bitcoin was done. It was 10,000 Bitcoins. A gentleman put on the internet saying he wanted to buy a pizza.
That's
And today that is
1.1
billion
billion
dollars worth.
dollars.
So hopefully whoever sold that pizza kept those Bitcoin and is nice and retired now.
Yeah, that would have been a great retirement plan. I would have loved to have received those Bitcoin and held on to them. Although I'm pretty sure I probably would have traded them for a T-shirt or something.
Yes. So we are selling this pizza today to celebrate Bitcoin for just 1,000 Bitcoin.
That's right. That's a great. What a bargain.
Absolutely. So look me up later for the address.
That's right. Yeah, for the address, we'll get it squared away at any moment. So obviously Bitcoin on a tear, but what do you think the rest of the crypto market? How is that looking?
The rest of the market in general, this is a great time in the whole industry. If you've been following the news lately, I mean, with the new Bitcoin reserve in the United States coming online and getting announced, and then all the other tones in the marketplace going pro Bitcoin here in the U.S., that's a great thing for the entire industry. Now you'll start to see other countries jump on board and start to do things like that, including the companies in different industries doing that. So there's a lot of stuff, a lot of focus coming in the industry right now.
Cool. And so like I guess that focus kind of moves to the top 10.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So-
We started doing this. We did meetings here locally. We had a great time with it back in 2017 when I first got into the group. We had a little group here in Southwest Florida called Bitcoiners of Southwest Florida. We had 100 to 120 people showing up for meetings, and we kind of made an agenda which worked out pretty good. And we're to kind of follow that same agenda going forward on these meetings here. We start off with the top 10 crypto, just kind of go over those, get people familiar with them and stuff. Get people understanding there's not just Bitcoin, there's other projects out there that have launched and have done pretty well, and we'll go over those, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Okay. So you want to talk about some of the top 10 right now? Like what are those looking like? Who are in the top 10 right now, and why should we care about them?
Absolutely. Well, that's a good question. Well, first of all, what is the top 10? And when I say that, we say top 10 by market cap. And that's one of the challenges that a lot of new people getting into crypto don't understand the market cap, and they just understand the price. Just because a coin is a penny doesn't mean it's a good price. If it's a penny and it's got 1 trillion coins out there, then it's not it's the number of outstanding tokens times the price equals the market cap. So the way I look at it, the way I teach people to look at it is really look at the market cap to see the size of the company or of the project or coin, and then you can kind of dig down from there and see what stuff's about and what they do and everything. There's all different types of coins, which we'll go over in a minute.
Okay, cool. So that'll give you an idea of how to figure out which coins are worth your time.
Exactly.
But then we've also kind of got the idea of there's a lot of coins out there.
Over 10,000.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling to see how many coins are out there nowadays.
Right.
But there's a lot of good tools out there you can use to kind of do research and learn about them, and we'll go over that also.
Very cool. And of course, beyond those, there's lots of coins out there. But in that top 10, there's also, there's coins that you and I are both pretty fond of. Cardano being one of them. Like
Exactly.
you and I have spent a lot of time around the Cardano ecosystem. Have a lot of work in the Cardano ecosystem. So I guess one of the big questions is always why Cardano. So why are you in Cardano? Why is that important to you?
Well, that's a very good question, Lloyd. We back in 2017, when a good buddy of mine introduced me to crypto, I was just overwhelmed by the technology and what it was doing, and we did a lot of research. We joined up with a group, 5 other people here in town. We met weekly and kind of studied it and learned everything we could about it. And one of the guys, Cliff, which he actually runs another meetup on Bitcoin. He with Bitcoin in Southwest Florida, he actually started doing a top 100 crypto coins in a minute. So we started studying the top 100 coins and learning everything we could about it, making a little 1-minute video. And after going through, I went through almost all 100 of them. I ran across Cardano and really took a deep dive in that and learned a lot about it. So that's one of the reasons how I found Cardano, and we'll get into some more reasons of why that I like that after I found it here in our little presentation slideshow here.
Very cool. All right, so yeah, let's move into it. Whatever bits you
Absolutely.
want to move into.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining here, and we're going to go over some. This is a little top 10 overview of the top 10 cryptos. So you want to move on to the third slide there, and there's our pizza day. If you see that real quick, May 22nd, a Florida programmer which bought 2 pizzas for 10,000 bitcoins, which is now worth over $1.1 billion. That's just amazing. So that's just it's unbelievable. Going on to the top 10 here. For those who aren't familiar with the crypto space, this is CoinMarketCap. This is straight off their website on there. It's a great tool to use to research stuff. You can click on each one and dig down a little further and go to the website, see what it is. But this is just kind of a quick overview. It's got the price, the movements over 1 day, 24 hours, 7 days on there, and the market cap, which is what I talked about a while ago. And I talked to so many people in there that don't understand what that is, but it is the price times the outstanding coins.
Right, and let's take a pause here, right there. So you see Bitcoin, you see Ethereum. So these are popular coins you've seen before. But then looking below that, we see Tether. Tether that's a stable coin, right? So that one's a coin that's pegged to the U.S. dollar.
Absolutely.
Right. And then below that, we've got XRP, BNB, Solana. Those are also fairly common coins. People may have heard of those. So again, top 10 coins here. They're top 10 for a reason.
Yeah, they're top 10 for reasons they've been kind of tried and true, tested and such. Ethereum came, well, first of all, Bitcoin, we all know what that is. We all hear about it on the news. That's kind of become the store of value of the crypto space. Then Ethereum came out by Vitalik Buterin back in 2015, popularized in 2017, with adding smart contracts. Vitalik used to he was a writer for Bitcoin.com, and I believe that's what he was writing for about Bitcoin. He came with the idea of, well, let's add programming language to this, and that's kind of what gave the idea for Ethereum. And Ethereum's been the number 2 for quite a while because they've added smart contracts, which allow it to do other things to where you can make subcoins. So Ethereum is what they call a layer 1 network or a layer 1 token. And that's what we'll get into here in a little bit also. Moving on to Tether. Tether is a stable coin, so don't necessarily invest into that, but Tether is what you'll do when you want to escape some market volatility. So if you're like Bitcoin's at $111,000 a day, if you had a Bitcoin or a portion of Bitcoin, you could have $100 in Bitcoin. And if it's at all-time high, sometimes that's a good time to kind of take a pause. You can trade it to Tether, and Tether stays $1 while Bitcoin does its fluctuations. And then when you want to get back into Bitcoin, then you can get back into Bitcoin. So that's really what the stable coins are for.
Very cool.
All right, XRP.
Yeah, that's okay. So, and I like XRP. This is an interesting token as well because it came along with the. If you've ever had to transfer money internationally, that's a painful experience. It's an extremely painful experience. XRP came along to try and make that an easier process, and it has succeeded. Now, of course, it went through a tremendous amount of pain due to the SEC to no fault of its own. It's obviously been cleared of all of that mess, but I guess it was disrupting a very profitable business for some
Absolutely.
other people, and and that made some problems for it for quite a while. But in the end, obviously, its name's been cleared, and now it's free to continue its business.
Real quick story on XRP, and not just XRP, but just in crypto in general. I've got a lot of people that I talk to is like, there's no use for any of this stuff, and what's it do and all that. And I'll give you a perfect example. 2 weeks ago, I sold my boat, and it was very, very hard to see it go, but I sold it. And I met the guy at the bank. He got a certified check at Chase Bank, and my bank, no, at Truist Bank. My bank was in the same parking lot, literally in the same parking lot. We share the same parking spaces. I took that certified check, walked across to my bank, put it in there. It was over 8 days before I got my money. That's just old school. That's just crazy. So I can't wait for this to go full stream.
Right, and a transaction over XRP
It could be instant.
or Ethereum or Cardano would
Exactly.
literally just be a few seconds, and you'd have your money.
Exactly.
So
yes.
yeah, so here we are, and so again, top 10. It's top 10 for a reason.
BNB, which comes in next, Binance Coin. That is a another layer one, and that started off with the Binance Exchange, and then it turned into Binance Coin, and they have their own version of their smart contracts and stuff. Very popular. It's very popular across seas and a lot of places around the world.
Absolutely, a lot of interesting technology being built on BNB because of the low cost on that one. So there is some. I've seen a lot of stuff that started to develop there because of the way that they've built their network. They've built it for DApps, so it's been very interesting to watch that one grow.
Real quick, the one thing that you may be asking is why are there multiple layer ones on there? When Bitcoin came out, one of the challenges was the speed and the amount of transaction per block. So all these second generation and third generation tokens are addressing all these challenges, and we'll get into a lot more of that in a little bit on there. But going back to the Binance Coin and the Solana, which is Solana, I like to say is kind of corporate America's version of crypto. It's a good coin. It's super fast. But it's not as decentralized as many people would like to see.
That's right. Yeah, they actually eschewed decentralization in exchange for speed. They felt that decentralization wasn't necessary, that expensive computing was fine, that it was all about the speed of exchange was what was important, and so they have attracted a large following, and they are doing tremendous
Absolutely
volume because of it.
So this is the beautiful thing about a free market. May the better projects survive, and in essence, many of them will survive, in my opinion. So
Absolutely.
that's why we cover a lot of them.
Right.
So moving on to the next in line, USDC, which is another stable coin.
Yep.
Circle. That is once again another stable coin like Tether. There's dozens of competitors out there, and once again, a stable coin is it's somewhat still centralized, but it's a way to move your funds into the only way I say it's centralized is sometimes they are backed by US dollar.
I'm a little bit more of a fan of USDC than USDT. In my case, USDT, it's a little iffy as to what it's backed by. It's backed by US dollar assets, so that could mean treasuries. It does not necessarily mean dollars, whereas USDC is Circle. Circle is a New York-based organization, so it is you have a little bit more surety, and that is dollar backed. So I'm a little bit more of a fan of USDC. I'm much more of a fan of USDM. Shout out to the Cardano community and Andrew Westberg and Jillian and the team over there at USDM Moneta. But yes, the USDC as far as that goes, definitely a more stable coin in my opinion.
Absolutely. Stable coins are great to have around whenever you see the market start to drop. This whole crypto space is volatile, so if you don't have the guts for that, you just be careful when you get into it. But stable coins are a blessing to have in your network.
Yes.
So moving on to the next one, which is Dogecoin. Dogecoin. I call it Dogecoin, but it is that's a meme coin, and that's originally set up as a joke. And it took traction, which we'll get into meme coins here in a little bit. But it's actually a neat coin, but it, in my opinion, lacks a lot of the technology. which Charles Hopkins he made a really good video on that about probably maybe 2-3 years ago about some things that it could do to improve to become mainstream.
Well, it could, and interestingly enough, it's got UTXO in it, so it actually does have some similarities with Bitcoin and with Cardano. So that's why he took some interest in it, and of course, because of all of the stuff that Elon Musk is doing, and and of course
Absolutely.
the Doge with the with the government and all that. There were some it has meme coins they take wing when the memes are popular, and so that one's in that top 10 right now, precisely because it's in the popular imagination right now.
Absolutely. And the next one here, let's move back to that slide there. There we go. The next one is Cardano, and that's if you can't notice here, that's probably one of my more favorite coins or most favorite coin. Done a very big deep dive on that. We used to have a lot of meetings on just that back when it was 2.5 cents, and wrote it all the way up to $3.10, $3.50, and then back and forth from there. And we're still watching that community grow. So we'll get into more of that later.
Yep.
Number 10 is a project by Justin Sun, which is Tron. Tron is another layer 1 token, and they also have smart contracts. And it's kind of I haven't followed it real strong for the last year, but the last I've heard, it was more moving towards like a stablecoin platform because of the cheap fees. And that's one of the challenges a lot of these different platforms have, is how do they operate and charge a fee without overcrowding the network and not make those fees too high. For example,
differentiation, basically.
Ethereum's a great project, but last time I traded on Ethereum, I tried to move to the layer 2. I was moving $500 to layer 2, and by the time I got it over there with 2 transactions, it cost me like $127 to get the $500 moved over. And that's because it was so crowded. So some networks, when they get crowded, the fees go up. I know Ethereum has dropped their fees a lot with all the updates they've had over the last couple of years, but that's one of the challenges all networks have, is how to do the transactions when their networks are full with and doing them cheap.
Absolutely.
So that brings us to the end of the top 10 on there. We go on from here to kind of this is to kind of bring the new people up to speed on what different types of coins there are. And moving on, well, actually, we'll jump ahead a slide there, but I'll talk about how to research. Go back to that last slide there real quick. The tips on researching, when you go to CoinMarketCap and you look at the top 10, you're obviously, like most people, going to want to go down past the top 10 and see other projects and look at, there's literally over 10,000 projects out there, so it's daunting to look at, but it's actually also fun because a lot of times you can find gems in the sand out there and find some really good stuff, make some really good investments. You probably heard of people of or people on the internet talking about they made a lot of money on different projects. We kind of like to look and learn how to research those projects. So going into the different types of way to research the projects. You look for the project purpose and the use case. Although meme coins sometimes make a lot of money, but they also go up and they go down really quick. So be careful with that. Always look at the purpose of the project and what they're doing, what their use cases are. Technology and blockchain, what type of blockchain it is, what kind of technology they use, and then try to do some research on that. And that's a whole gamut of stuff you need to learn to understand that, but it's good to understand what technologies they have, and meaning the latest and the greatest stuff. Sometimes the older coins that are from 2017 that haven't really been updated, they don't have the latest updates. Back when I first started following Ethereum, I was head over heels over Ethereum, and I heard Vitalik Buterin talking about in one of his update meetings, they plan on getting all this stuff done by 2022, 2021. And that was 4 years down the road. That's a long time to wait in the crypto space. But now a lot of the newer coins have already upgraded that, or older coins that have upgraded the new technology and stuff like that are ready for mainstream. So also to look at the teams in development, and this is my biggest thing.
People are everything.
If you don't have a good team, what I like to look for is people like Steve Jobs. He's not in crypto and he's no longer with us anymore, but he was a king. He was awesome at what he does. Elon Musk, Bill Gates, these founders all have very strong entrepreneurs, spirits and aspects about them. You want to look for people like that in projects. No, they're
That's
not
right.
in crypto that much, but there are people in crypto, like Charles.
Right, exactly. You
Charles,
find the people. You find those. You find the humans that are driving the tools, driving the stuff forward.
community adoption. Look for the community, and when I say look for the community, don't look for the YouTubers that are promoting. Oh, it's going to $1,000 tomorrow. That's the promoter. That's not a community. A community are people that are actually building and helping out and helping make the
Yeah. Are they actually in GitHub making commits to code? Are they actually arguing with each other on Discord about whether or not something should be added to the code?
Exactly.
Those are the or over governance. If they're having those actual conversations in public, then they're probably a community.
Absolutely. The market performance, you look at that. That's a good bellwether to kind of look at these projects and see, as the market goes up, are they in line? Are they going up too? Usually Bitcoin goes up and then it kind of comes down, and then the altcoins start to take off behind it.
Sure.
And but are they in line with? Are other people buying them? Just because it's got a pretty name or it's got a funny video on it doesn't mean it's a good project. If it's not making traction as the market goes up, it's probably because nobody's actually following it.
Mm-hmm.
So market performance is on there. White papered roadmap. If you don't know what a white paper is, it's the kind of the original founding paper of a project. When Satoshi Nakamoto wrote the the white paper for Bitcoin, it basically laid out the rules and how Bitcoin was going to work. And most projects have all projects have a white paper, pretty much. And they do update them as they go on. But look for that. Look at the roadmap on there. If they're really good, they have a roadmap. They'll spell it out of how the
You got to know where
work.
you're headed.
Exactly.
So that's a good way to know where the project's headed.
The security and audits. You can build a project, and if you build it, doesn't mean it's necessarily going to work, because there's a lot of projects get built and they die because they get hacked.
Yep, you can look through the news and see all the times that a lot of money's been lost because security wasn't paid.
So when you find your favorite project that's at place 256 on Coin Market Cap, and you dig down on it and you see they're launching and nobody's ever audited the code, it might be a little bit of a red flag. Tokenomics. Evaluate your tokenomics on there. When you look at tokenomics, for those that are new and don't know what that is, that's for example, Bitcoin has 21 million Bitcoin on there, and that's the tokenomics. The way they're distributed is through the mining algorithm. They give away a certain amount on every block. Other projects, like back in the ICO days when Ethereum was launching, they had say 100 million tokens. They would give 20,000 or 20 million to the founders, 20 million for marketing, 20 million for this, and 20 million for future development. And that's how they divide that up. And that's basically the tokenomics.
Some tokens have a fixed amount, others have an amount that changes, and if it's not a fixed amount, you have to understand that the amount can change over time. You can be diluted, and that's an important element of
Good
tokenomics
point.
there.
Definitely.
So
regulation and compliance. That's always up in the air here with regulation and compliance, because around the world there hasn't been a lot of regulation, but now when I say this is an exciting time for the host space, it's actually coming to fruition where they're talking about regulation now, and we expect that
we might actually understand what it means to regulate token rather than having to guess. What a concept, right?
Oh, absolutely. So. The transparency. Look for the projects to similar cryptocurrencies and access their unique advantages. That's the competition. Look for the open communication and regular updates. Transparency means the community. So
yeah, it does exactly. So sometimes I tell you the amount of times we've been asked to be transparent in Cardano. I feel like I should be a pane of glass at this point. I think people can see through me because of all the times we've been asked to be more transparent. But yeah, it's it's one of those things. It's a good demand. It's good to work in public. It's good to make sure that people can see the work you're doing, because if you're trying to work behind closed doors, you probably probably do have something to hide that may not be a good thing. So
when I look and I have researched a lot of companies and a lot of coins on there, and that's one thing that always drives me nuts is when you go to YouTube or you go to Telegram or Discord and you try to do some due diligence and find the founders. And one, if they're anonymous, if they're not willing to put their name on the project, stay away from it. Two, if they've got their name on the project and they don't have any communication, anything about updates, they're probably not updating. In almost all projects, you can go to GitHub and you can actually look at the actual project and see if there's any commits. That means has anybody logged on and changed code and updated anything or put any ideas in there? And if they have, it puts it on a mark. And it's a great program to see how stuff's getting developed. And if they don't have any commits on there, they're probably a dead project. Because believe it or not, I have followed a lot of these, and I've talked to a lot of them. I've been to probably 20 crypto shows around the country, and a lot of times you talk to them, and they come in all hyped and ready to rock and roll. They got $2 million to work with. They got a runway of $2 million, and they burn through that in the first year. And then guess what? All the developers quit or don't come to work or whatever. But they still try to keep pushing along. So you got to look for transparency and make sure they're still out there working. So
Absolutely.
don't get stuck. That's just a way to find a good project on there. Competition. Look and see what other coins they have competition of and who you're up against. And risk factor, be aware of volatility, the risk, and there's a lot of scams out there. That's the biggest thing. So
yeah, don't jump in and spend a bunch of money on something. If you're gonna take a chance at a coin, take a small chance at a coin rather than risk a lot of money that you can't lose.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Moving on to types of coins and projects. Can you pull that slide up real quick?
Go to the next one.
Alrighty. There we go. Nope. One more. The payment coins. That's there's the payment coin, which is what we talked about earlier. Bitcoin, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, and all these different coins that are used for payment. There's stable coins, which are USD, USDT, USDC, DAI, and there's dozens of other ones out there. Platform infrastructure coins. That is like Ethereum, Cardano, Solana, Binance Chain, BNB, and then meme coins, which we briefed a little bit about on there. It's meme coins. That's just a couple different types of coins. There's also privacy coins, which I don't really get into much, but
yeah, privacy coins are getting interesting. I'm spending some time in Midnight. It's very interesting. So that's a sort of a new area that's coming up. That's going to be very helpful as we bring sort of the everyday consumer in. There are elements that the everyday consumer will need in order to do financial transactions that they'll need to protect their data, but still be able to complete certain transactions. And the privacy coin is going to allow the privacy network is going to allow those transactions to be de-risked and still be on the public infrastructure blockchains.
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
absolutely.
it's going to be very
Looking
cool.
very forward to that project launching on there. Moving on to what I discussed, we went through in 2017 and went through the top 100 projects at the time. And a lot of those has changed over time. So I'm still updating it literally on a daily basis. It's been many hours a day on crypto. We went through the first top 100, and my favorite, basically, after I watched the whiteboard video, which I know I didn't put that on the slideshow. If you do get a chance to pull that up on YouTube, show it on there. But if not, the whiteboard video, which Charles made out back in 2016, I believe it was pretty much just a whiteboard right here, and he was just writing on where we are at in this current space, what's good about the current space, and what problems it has, and how what we needed to fix it. And he put together a timeline and with 5 different
5 eras.
milestones, 5 eras to kind of tackle that stuff. And because as I mentioned before, when Ethereum was tackling a lot of that stuff, he said it would take 3 to 4 years to get through a lot of this stuff. It's a lot of coding, a lot of development, and a lot of research. And
of course, Cardano really just wrapped up that 5th era.
Absolutely.
The Voltaire era, which was the 5th and final era, which was launching the governance, the self-governance of Cardano, which just happened in February of this year.
Which, bring people up to speed on that, from me being an insider or outsider kind of thing, I was kind of looking at Cardano, but seeing that take off, they actually had meetings in 60-something meetings around the world.
We had 65 different workshops, or 65, it was 52 countries, 65 workshops.
52 countries. Think about that. 52 countries are involved in this project, enough to have a workshop where people take their time out of their day and come there to learn about this governance
Yeah,
program.
you came to the workshop
Yes,
here
yes,
at
it was
this at the
amazing.
studios here, and we ended up in two different locations, Buenos Aires and Nairobi, Kenya. The delegates, the 63 delegates that ended up gathering in the two different locations, ratified the Constitution. They agreed on what the Constitution should be, and then we put it on chain, and then the D-reps and stake pool operators
Absolutely.
all agreed. Everybody agreed on what the Constitution should be.
That's
Yeah.
deep, and I know we're probably losing a lot
Yeah.
of people, but
But
that's
yes,
just something that's in the background that's
incredible stuff that happened.
unbelievable. That's the first in the history of the world
Yeah.
to have a decentralized governance like that. But what I found on that, just kind of starting from scratch on Cardano, the biggest thing that jumped out to me was the Cardano was peer-reviewed research. And when I say peer-reviewed research, I've developed half a dozen projects on the internet, different learning management platform, a couple of little websites and things like that, and some databases. And what I found is a lot of times, you get all excited about something, you slap it up there, and then something doesn't work, and it's like, oh, but we can still make it work if we just don't do it right this way. Cardano was actually, they did that offline, and they went through and had everybody look at it, and they worked all those bugs out before they actually built it.
Yep.
And that was a huge thing, because a lot of other platforms that I've watched, including Tron and Ethereum and a lot of these other layer one platforms, had some hiccups along the way.
Yep.
And,
It's like measure twice, cut once, right?
So I like that about that Cardano. It did take a lot longer to do it that way, but its protocols are developed through formal methods and verified by researchers and experts. So coming from a little bit of developed background that I had, that really sparked my attention on there. Going on to proof of stake consensus, or Boris. This proof of stake consensus, I was a Bitcoin miner back in the day, and that was fun. Boy, that was loud and hot. But it was a way it's a way you could mine Bitcoin on there. But I knew something wasn't right about that. All these other projects, including Ethereum, I was mining Ethereum in my office, which made my office about 90 degrees, and I was like, this can't work for forever. Make a long story short, Cardano was building on at the time they were using federated nodes, and they were working on the Boris implementation, where they actually had outside people run the nodes, which that was a fun little error there. But that's what I liked about Cardano, because they're getting away from the mining. So Cardano doesn't use miners; they use a mechanism called staking, and they use that to proof the network.
And there's 3,000 independent stake pools running now.
Exactly. Which well, that's a neat fact about Cardano. So moving on to strong development team. If anybody ever watched any of Charles's videos on YouTube, that dude is smart. He is super smart, man. And I've been to a lot of the conferences where he'll give a talk and things, and people will just throw out these random questions about really hard stuff, and he'll just come off the hip and give you an exact answer. And I'm like, not only does he answer the question, he'll talk about the person who first did it back in 1682. And I'm just like, wow, he's just a wealth of knowledge. So to have a lead, somebody in the team that's that knowledgeable, is just a tremendous blessing. Moving on to the strong development team, layered architecture. They have a different architecture for settlements and for the compute layer on there, smart contract layer. So that's a plus on there. Focused on regulation and sustainability. So they've thought ahead, and they've thought of what challenges we could have, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, with regulation and with different things, and try to make it future proof. So that was just talking about that. A lot of other blockchains were just how do we get this to work today so we can get to the next price level. That was good, because you can sometimes make money at that, but long term I think is the way to go. Active governance and the community. Now, Voltaire, you kind of hit on this already. This is probably, we're both super excited about this, because this is, I know you are, because you're involved in this a lot.
Yep.
You want to tell us a little about the governance again?
Yeah, so I mean, definitely this is something that's near and dear to my heart. I'm a bit of a governance wonk, so I got into this at the when it was announced that Voltaire was starting. I jumped right in with both feet, and I was involved from the very beginning of governance all the way through now. We're sort of in the capstone project of the governance now, which is resource allocation or budgeting. So Cardano has a treasury. The treasury has about 1.5 to 1.8 billion US dollars worth of money in it that can be allocated toward the future development of the blockchain. We are currently working on allocating anywhere in the neighborhood of about 150 to 200 million US dollars for the rest of 2025 and maybe the first part of 2026 to develop the blockchain for the next year based on what the community thinks it wants to develop. Pretty exciting stuff.
Now, I want to hit on that real quick because being in this space since early 2017, it was always I sit through a lot of the different conference calls with the entire development teams of multiple projects. I mean, I spent a lot of time in this world, and one thing that always came up was, well, how are we going to fund that, or how are we going to do this? Or, we got 26 people here. We gotta make money somehow. And everybody was like, well, you just work really hard, and the price will go up, and then you can sell more your tokens. And that's not a way to sustain something. That's not a way to build something. So luckily in Cardano, they actually had the foresight to say, hey, we're going to need a tool, a mechanism to fund the development going forward from here on to eternity.
Right.
And like you said, it's got 1.5 billion.
We
Cardano
actually
right now.
tax every transaction that occurs on Cardano, and that puts money in a treasury. And that money that's in the treasury, we vote on how we spend it for the future development of the chain.
When you say tax, though, that's the transaction fee.
Transaction fee.
It's a transaction fee, just like every other blockchain. Every time you do a transaction on Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, any one of these things, they have a fee, and that goes into usually paying the miners. And
it does in this case too. The transaction fees partially go to the stake pool operators. We have 3,000 of those, so some of that money goes to the operator. Some of the money goes to everybody who stakes with those stake pool operators, and then a portion of it also goes into the treasury.
And that's the magic juice right there. It's because it feeds the treasury, and it builds enough there to where we can use to future development to upgrade the network. I don't know if you remember back in the day, for those who've been here a while, in late 2017, early 2018, I believe it was, Bitcoin was having challenges with the block size, and they had two different groups of people were fighting on how do you fix that. And if my memory is correct, they said, well, we got to do this here and fix it, and they didn't agree on it, but they said, well, let's just fork it. And now they had two Bitcoins, and then the argument was, well, who gets to call it Bitcoin? Well, they said, well, the original Bitcoin got to keep Bitcoin, and they called the new one Bitcoin Cash. And that's a challenge they had because they didn't have a governance program. They didn't have a way to actually come to a consensus, which is kind of ironic because that's what Bitcoin is. It's coming to consensus on transactions.
That's right.
So Cardano actually has that built into the actual program. So
Bitcoin is anarchy. It is. Bitcoin is its governance is anarchy, and that's why we have a system of governance as a part of Cardano, so that we don't end up in anarchy.
Absolutely. So moving on from governance, real world use cases. When it comes to crypto, there's all kinds of real world use cases, and we'll get to some of the fun ones that I think Cardano's doing well at now. And Cardano's really done well. Stuff's one of them. It's partnering with governments and institutions for blockchain identity, education, and voting systems. I love the voting system because I'm working on a project in the background called One Vote, and hopefully someday we'll get it off the ground, and it'll be really, really super cool. But they have a lot of stuff built into the platform to where it'll be good for that, and we'll see how that develops over time on there. They're focused on real world problems in finance too. So there's lots of projects out there. There's over 1,000 projects. I think 1,300 projects now being built on Cardano.
Absolutely.
So I'm trying to dig in one of those, and who knows, one day I may make a minute video on the top 1,000. I tried it, but it's a lot of work. Hopefully, I think I got to like number 16, but we'll keep doing it in the background and see how far it goes. Scalability, interoperability. Scalability is one thing that is important to all blockchains. When I say scalability, making the transactions with the way the Ouroboros works, you could add additional nodes on there. They have this new thing called Hydra, which is coming out, which is going to make the transactions, they say a million per second.
So we've got Hydra working. Hydra actually got used in the governance recently with Ecclesia, the tool that we use to kind of go through all of the potential governance proposals. We used Hydra to vote on it, and they opened up ahead, and everybody voted on which proposals they wanted and which proposals they didn't. So it also they did a Doom tournament.
Yeah, that was cool.
So Hydra's in use on the blockchain. It looks like, we don't know yet for sure, but it looks like we're going to fund Laos and Paris, which are both also going to help with scalability as well, which are going to further introduce some more scalability features. And then this year we're working on Bitcoin interoperability, and Midnight also adds another whole type of interoperability. So there is so much going on for these two. You can't even, you can't stop. Like there's so many things coming for scalability and interoperability in the next year.
Absolutely. That's what brings us to where we're at in today's market, and we're in the coming. You might have heard the bull run. You've probably heard that before.
Yes.
You guys hopefully been following
Hopefully
this.
we're getting the bull run.
We hope we're the bull run. The bull run people who are new to this. If you go back to pull up the slide on the bull run there. I've followed a show called The Moon for probably 4 years. This guy's name's Carl. He's got a great story. He was started off as a young kid in a grocery store, and then he started investing and doing stuff in this, and now he's I see him in Monaco on yachts and stuff like that, these big 100-foot yachts and everything, doing videos. But
Nice.
He's done very well for himself. But he did daily videos and literally through this whole 4-year process, and I watched I think every one of them. But one thing he kept hitting on was this Bitcoin halving, and every time it halves. If you look at the screen here, it's if you look at the yellow lines, that's when the halvings are, and then the greens are when there's positive growth in Bitcoin, and then the red is when it's kind of like the bear market, and then you get another green, that's the bull market. You get another bear. What the halving is, every 4 years, in the algorithm of Bitcoin, it cuts the output in half. So rewinding to the beginning, what am I talking about? When Satoshi Nakamoto gave the instructions for Bitcoin, they made a halving that every 4 years, it gets cut in half. When I say there's 21 million Bitcoin, and the only way you can get them is mine, when they first started out, I think it was 64, something like that, Bitcoin every 10 minutes. And that went on for 4 years. And then after 4 years, that got cut in half to 32. And then that first halving, we dropped it down to 32. So what happens, the supply shock goes down in half, and then the price gets pushed up. 4 years goes on again, that gets cut in half again, and now half again. And does anybody know the current output of Bitcoin? It's like 3.2 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. It's cut way down. This algorithm cuts in half every 4 years, all the way until 2142 is when it's planned to run out. So this is going to go on for a long time. And every time it goes down, the output gets cut in half, which just microeconomically pushes the price up. So that's what's happened, and we've proved it 4 times now. So we're in the 4th one here on the screen, and it's just now starting to get to the bull market. So where that goes, there's numbers all over the place. I think there's estimates from $200,000 to $1 million on this bull run.
And we'll see.
And every time in 2017, I remember there were people saying that it was amazing to see it go from 2,000 to 18,000. Then it went back down to way down, and then it went from up to, what was it, 66,000?
60, yeah.
And now it went back down, and now it's back. It was down to 16,000. Now it's back up to 111,000 as of today. So we're at an all-time high today on Bitcoin Pizza Day. So that's the cycles on there. So what's different about this cycle than all the cycles before? It's the market, the acceptance of Bitcoin. Back in 2020, when 2021, when the last halving was, the sentiment was, stay away from it. It's a scam. Jamie Dimon was on TV saying if anybody buys Bitcoin, we're gonna, fire him or whatever. There was a lot of people that didn't like Bitcoin. Yep. And now, if you saw the news recently, I think it's the same thing. Jamie Dimon just said, hey, he's accepting anybody in Chase to buy Bitcoin now.
That's right. The
whole market sentiment has changed. Everybody's looking at Bitcoin like, hey, wait a minute, this is actually working. Yep. And it's a beautiful thing. So when that happens, this is the bellwether. This is the store of money. As that market cycle grows up, the whole market underneath of it, which are all the sub coins and all altcoins,
it has traditionally buoyed up every time. So we'll see now what that looks like.
So this is a trading view screenshot here. If you are getting this the first time and you haven't had any time to play around with it, TradingView is a great application. It's a website. You can get into it for free. You can also subscribe, get more advanced stuff like I got on the screen here, to where you can actually put all kinds of indicators and kind of look at different stuff on there. There's even technical analysis, where it automatically puts your technical analysis on the screen for you, and it's got thousands of options on there. So I play around with that a lot and learn how to look at these markets and how they're growing and everything. So that's the market cycles. Now we're in the next bull run. And as we dig down into which is our favorite, Cardano, I want to hit on that. We hit on the coin market cap, and now let's move to Tap Tools. So Tap Tools is kind of coin market cap for Cardano. And the guys that put this together did just a freaking knockout job, man. This is great.
Yeah, they did.
They've got a lot of information on here, and when you dig around on it, you can click on anything. It'll pull up the detail or the deep dive of that little project. You can go to the website, and you can look at the website. Now these are all the projects on Cardano. So this is sort of about market cap. So you can see our first one there, SNEC. It's actually a meme coin, but they're building a lot of stuff. So
they do, yeah. In fairness to SNEC, they're not just a meme coin. They do actually have products that they sell.
They've got their own soda.
They do have their own soda. So. And there's a DPIN project underneath that, World Mobile Token, which is a decentralized infrastructure project. AGIX, which is also a decentralized a DPIN project as well. So a number of those up there, and IAG as well. So yeah, there's lots of interesting projects that are Cardano native projects, building infrastructure type projects on using Cardano.
Absolutely. So as you go through this, you can dig down and do your own research on that, and see what fits in your wheelhouse. And it's a great tool to learn more about Cardano and the crypto space. There's other ones out there for other platforms on there, and we're not going to go over a lot of those now. I mainly use CoinMarketCap. There's World Coin Index, a couple of other ones out there, but that's basically our favorite on the Cardano side. They got a lot of projects in there, and we can dig down to those in future videos and maybe find some favorites that we like.
Well, Mike, this has been super fun.
Absolutely.
Hey, we took a deep dive into Cardano. We took a nice dip in the pond for everybody else. So we should definitely do this again next month whenever we get together and kind of see where the market's moved in a month and what the outlook looks like as this hopefully the bull market that we're in now is making a move.
Absolutely. I'd love to do that and follow these projects. And if you want to follow these projects, click the like button and follow us here, and follow Lloyd on here for any future videos. And we'd love to have you back.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for signing in. Thank you, everybody that joined us here in person. And
make sure to grab some pizza.
Grab some pizza in the back there. And if you're not here, sorry you weren't here, come back next time. There'll be some pizza. See you guys next time.
It's right here now. Hold on here. Look at this pizza.
Look at that. All right. Bye, guys.
Thanks a lot.